This happened about 7 months ago. I was 35 and a marine biologist. I won a grant for a research trip to Antarctica. I felt excited but nervous. The research station felt cold and lonely. It was a small structure lost in endless white. The mountains looked eerie in the distance as my team bundled up. On the first day, we prepared for our first dive. I thought about what we might find. As I descended, I saw something strange. A formation caught my eye. It looked out of place, unnatural. As I swam closer, I felt like it was watching me. My heart raced. Then I spotted artifacts scattered across the ocean floor. They were smooth and oddly shaped. Nothing I'd ever seen before. It hit me. These could change everything we thought we knew. Over the next few days, I spent more time focusing on those artifacts. I felt a need to understand them. It was exciting at first, but soon things turned dark. One by one, my crew members began to vanish. I tried to shake it off as my imagination. But then Jake didn't come back from his dive. Just gone. At first I thought it was equipment failure or something, but the noises in the station grew louder. I kept hearing scratching sounds in the walls. I sometimes caught a glimpse of shadows darting out of sight. Maybe it was the cold getting to me. It made my heart heavy each time I was alone. Nights were the worst. I felt like something was watching me. I checked the perimeter, feeling uneasy. This has to be just stress, I told myself. But when I looked at the others, they seemed lost, breathless. Something was off. One night, a loud bang jolted me awake. My heart raced. I heard shouting, but it sounded muffled. I stumbled out of my room, running toward the common area. The lights flickered, creating strange shapes. Then I saw him, Adam, standing there. But he looked wrong. I stepped forward, ready to ask if he was okay. Instead, he stared off into the dark. He didn't seem to recognize me. My skin crawled. "Adam?" I said, my voice trembling. Then he turned to me. His face looked strange in the flickering light. I felt a sick pit form in my stomach. He whispered something, but I couldn't get the words. Panic surged through me. I knew I had to understand what was happening. What did those artifacts mean? I felt the ice beneath me move, shifting. I was scared. If I didn't figure it out, I might end up like Jake and the others. I couldn't shake the thought that time was running out. I had to confront whatever darkness lurked in the frozen waters. I wanted answers, but deep down I was terrified of what I might find. I spent the night in my room trying to wrap my head around what had just happened. The way Adam looked at me, it was like he was somewhere else entirely. My mind raced with questions. Was it a lack of oxygen, or had something more sinister happened to him? I needed to find out. The next morning I forced myself to join the others for breakfast. It felt strange sitting around the table. Food hadn't tasted right in days. The tension in the room was palpable. Everyone seemed to be avoiding eye contact. I scanned their faces, looking for any sign of normalcy. But I found only fear reflected back at me. "Anyone seen Adam this morning?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Their silence said everything. I decided to check the dive logs. Maybe he left a clue. I found his logbook lying on the table, filled with frantic notes about the underwater formations. Then I noticed something bizarre. The last entry was scratched out, the page torn slightly. I felt a chill. What had he discovered? Was it connected to what we had found? Or what was finding us? I scribbled a note to my team, suggesting we regroup at the dive chamber later. I had to know if anyone else shared my concerns about the artifacts. As the hours passed, unease settled in like the creeping cold outside. Tension hung thick in the air. I could see the worry etched on my colleagues' faces as they arrived at the dive chamber. I laid out the artifacts in front of them, laid bare my fears, and the connection I felt to them. "We need to study these more closely," I urged. "We have to understand what they are." They exchanged glances. "Maybe it's best to leave them where they are," Sarah said hesitantly. "If something is happening to us, we shouldn't provoke it." I shook my head vehemently. Not knowing will drive us mad. We're already losing people. If these artifacts hold answers, we have to uncover what they reveal before it's too late. We agreed to conduct another dive, but I could see the doubt in their eyes. As we prepared our gear, my heart raced not from excitement, but dread. The water was calling me, yet it felt alive with danger. We descended into the icy depths again, the darkness surrounding us only disturbed by the light from our torches. My hands trembled as I scanned the ocean floor. The artifacts were still there, eerily untouched, but something seemed different. I approached the formation with caution. That's when I saw it, a new shape rising out of the icy ground, something large, breaking through the sediment. Fear rooted me in place. It loomed beneath the water, something massive, but oddly familiar. My throat dried up, unable to call out to the others. Just when I thought about backing away, a loud crack echoed through the water. Before I could comprehend what was happening, the ground beneath the artifacts gave way. I felt a rush of water as the floor collapsed. The darkness around me deepened, absorbing the last remnants of light as I was pulled into the blackness. I couldn't tell what direction was up. Holding my breath, panicking, I reached out. Someone was right beside me. I turned. It was Adam. Only he wasn't Adam anymore. Everything went dark. I gasped, the cold water hitting my lungs like a steel fist. Instinct kicked in, forcing my legs to kick frantically. I had to get away. But where? Shadows danced around me in the pitch-black depth. Adam's figure drifted just out of reach, his eyes void and empty. My heart raced as I pushed against the water, trying to maneuver toward the surface. But something latched onto my ankle, a cold grip pulling me down. I looked back to see what it was. It was Adam, or rather the husk that had once been him, his mouth open, as if attempting to say something. Panic clawed at my throat. "No, get away!" I screamed, but the sound was devoured by the water. I fought against the force holding me, my movements growing frantic. Using all my strength, I kicked free and swam upwards, desperate for air. The surface felt impossibly far away. But I couldn't let fear consume me. I focused, steadying my breath. Remember the training, I told myself. The ascent was painful, each second stretching into eternity. Finally, I broke through the surface, gasping for air, salt water stinging my eyes. I turned to look below, expecting to see the abyss stare back, but it was quiet. Where had Adam gone? The dive lights flickered in the distance, illuminating the dark water. I knew I had to return to the dive chamber to warn the others. I paddled toward the surface buoy, fighting against the waves that crashed around me. Once aboard the boat, my teammates' faces were pale with worry. They pulled me up roughly, their hands shaking. "What happened? We lost you," Sarah shouted, looking to where I had just surfaced. "It was Adam," I gasped, catching my breath. "He's not himself. He tried to pull me down." The realization spread across their faces, disbelief mingled with concern. "It might be the artifacts," Greg said, voice frantic. "Something is happening to those who interact with them." "Or maybe it's the water," Sarah added, her gaze darting around the surface as if the ocean might strike again. "The pressure, the temperature, it could be messing with our minds." I shook my head. "It's more than that. We need to go down again. We have to find Adam." "What if he's already gone?" Greg shot back, panic creeping into his tone. "No, we can't leave him down there. I won't abandon him," I yelled. Uncertainty filled the space between us, an invisible chasm of fear and urgency. But as I prepared to gear up again, doubt crept in. What was I even looking for? Adam might have been right. If the artifacts were dangerous, we were asking for trouble. Just then, my torch flickered, dimming before going out completely. A sense of dread crawled up my spine. "Did you see that?" I turned toward my team, but their eyes were wide, staring at something behind me. I swiveled around. That's when I saw it. Silhouetted just beneath the surface, a massive form rising, its outline shifting slowly in the dark water. A loud crack echoed above the surface, and my heart sank. Something was coming back for us. It was time to decide, dive back in or run straight into the unknown. But running wouldn't save us from what lay below. The massive form beneath the water loomed closer, and my instinct screamed at me to get away. My teammates stood frozen, caught in both awe and fear. I felt a panic rising in me as my mind raced with what this could mean. I grabbed Sarah's arm, shaking it. "We have to go. Now!" But she was still staring. "What is that?" Her voice trembled. I turned to look back. The shape was huge, too big to be anything natural. It undulated slowly, its edges shimmering with an otherworldly glow that felt chilling. I don't know, but we can't wait to find out. Without another word, I half pulled, half dragged her towards the dive gear. Greg hurried to follow, his breathing erratic. The urgency of the situation pumped adrenaline through my veins. We slipped into the suits, hands moving mechanically. I could feel the weight of doubt lingering in the back of my mind, but I pushed it aside. Adam needed us. We need to use the buoy line, I said, securing my harness. Stick together, no matter what. We all nodded, each one lost in our thoughts. I took a deep breath and swung my legs over the side, plunging back into the icy water. The cold hit me like a wall. As I sank deeper, I wondered if I was going to find Adam, or if I would encounter some other horror. My torch flickered to life, illuminating the glacial landscape below. The water was a deep blue, and the faint glow from the artifact I had seen before pulsed in the distance. That wasn't the only light, though. More flickers appeared, swirling around the massive dark shape, creating a dance of shadows and beams. I swam faster, my heart pounding as the depth of the ocean closed in around me. "Stay close," I called out, but my voice was muffled. I could see the silhouette more clearly now. The shape was unlike anything I had ever seen before. It was almost organic. Tendrils protruded from its body, moving as if they were alive, reaching out into the void. The lights around it twinkled with eerie electric colors cutting through the darkness. "We need to get out of here," Greg shouted, echoing my own fears. But I couldn't turn back now, not while we might still find Adam. The artifact's glow brightened, suddenly overwhelming me. It was like the ocean was alive, pulling me toward its depths. I strained against an unseen force, trying to push through, but the current was too strong. And then I felt it, a sharp tug at my ankle, and panic gripped me. I twisted, fumbling for my torch. My heart raced as I looked down. But it wasn't Adam. It was those same tendrils from the creature below. "Help!" I screamed, but my voice was lost in the current. I struggled against the pull, but it was too late. Darkness began to envelop me as the creature pulled me closer. Just as I thought I would be consumed, I caught a glimpse of something from the corner of my eye. A glow, a familiar shape. It was Adam. But he wasn't alone. Something twisted in my gut as I realized he was entwined in the tendrils too, his eyes wide with terror. Then everything around me exploded in a whirl of bubbles as I fought to escape. This time, I couldn't fight alone. I had to make a choice. Diving deeper or reaching for my friend, what would I risk? And then, in the shadows, I felt something even darker watching us. I reached for Adam, my fingers brushing against the slick tendrils. Panic drained my strength and filled my lungs with icy dread. "Hang on!" I shouted, but my voice was just a whisper lost in the water. He looked at me, wide-eyed, pleading for help. But the tendrils tightened. I fought against the strangling grip, flailing wildly as the cold seeped deeper into my bones. I couldn't let him disappear. Not like this. Suddenly an explosion of light surrounded me, blindingly bright. I squinted through the brightness and caught sight of swirling colors all around us. It felt like the creature was awakening, the glow pulsating in time with my racing heart. I didn't want to stay here, to find out what it wanted. I focused back on Adam. His face twisted in fear, and I could see the panic in his movements. The creature was clearly reacting to our struggle, pulling harder, ready to consume us both. I knew I had to act fast. With a surge of adrenaline, I lunged. My hand grasped one of Adam's wrists and I yanked with all my strength. It was a battle against the force of the tendrils and the weight of despair dragging him down. I felt a sharp pain shooting through my fingers as the tender skin scraped against the coarse, slimy surface of the creature. "We're getting out," I grunted, pulling harder, but it wasn't enough. Our connection was slipping away, drowning in the darker depths of this nightmare. "Help!" Greg's voice piped up panicked as he swam closer. I could see him fighting the current, desperately trying to reach us, but just as he got near, the lights flickered and the creature shifted. The water around us began to swirl violently, creating a vortex that tugged at all three of us. I could feel the current, the raw strength of it pushing me down, trying to separate us. "Grab my hand!" I yelled to Greg, desperation clawing at my throat. The urgency hit me like a wave. If we didn't regroup, we'd all be lost. Suddenly, with a force that felt unnatural, the tendrils released Adam and me. We were thrown apart, each of us spinning in different directions. I reached out instinctively but found only empty water. Then came a horrifying realization. A shadow darted between us. Something else was in the water, something dark and massive, following the chaos we'd spilled into its domain. "No!" I yelled into the dark, but it didn't matter. I was losing them, my teammates, my lifeline. I had to find Greg and Adam before whatever presence had come for us closed in. In the distance, I caught a brief glimpse of Adam's figure, illuminated by a different beam of light. It was flickering, but I knew it was coming from an opening, a crevice just beyond the creature. "Adam!" I called, pushing forward against the current. My heart raced with hope and fear intertwining, propelling me toward that glimmer. Then I turned back, knowing I had to get Greg too. That's when I saw it, a glint of something sharp and metallic rising ominously from the darkness. I froze. I didn't know what it was, but whatever lay beneath was preparing to strike. The darkness pulsed, and I realized I was not only racing against time, I was racing against something that wanted to take us all. I kicked hard, pushing away the weight of panic that threatened to anchor me. The sharp object was still out there lurking and waiting, but I had to focus. I needed to find Greg. My eyes darted around, searching for any sign of him. The water swirled chaotically, and I could barely tell which direction I was headed. My breath came in short, desperate bursts. I thought about the creature, the tendrils, and the shadow. It all had to be connected somehow. We weren't just swimming in a current. We were caught in whatever dark puzzle this place held. To my left there was a flash, a silhouette moving beneath the surface, almost human. Greg. I didn't hesitate. I swam, feeling the current pushing against my body, forcing me to fight harder. I extended my arm. "Greg, over here!" I shouted, though I wasn't sure he could hear me. My voice felt small against the roar of the water. He turned toward me, eyes wide with fear and confusion. I thought he was going to reach for me, but panic clouded his face. He sputtered, and I saw him jerk back instinctively. In that moment, I felt it. A rush of cold that cut deeper than the frigid water around us. The shadow had shifted, darting closer. I could see it now, a mass of darkness, vast and unknowable, molding itself through the water like a predator. "Swim!" I yelled, urging him forward. I couldn't risk losing both Adam and Greg. My stomach twisted in recognition of how close danger was. The light flickered again. It was brighter now, flaring around us as if drawing our attention. I realized it wasn't just a beam. It was a way out, the crevice I had seen earlier. But it was still far away, and the creature was coming for us. I reached Greg and grabbed his arm, pulling him as hard as I could towards the opening. The tendrils brushed against my leg, pulling me back, searching for purchase like a hungry maw. I fought against them with everything I had. My heart hammered against my rib cage as realization flooded me. I had to let go of my fear. We had to make it. "Greg! Trust me!" I shouted, urging him to push against the current. Together, we fought our way toward the shimmer of light. My lungs burned, and each kick felt heavy, weighed down by despair. The shadow loomed larger behind us, the water vibrating with a menace that made every instinct scream danger. I felt Greg's fingers slipping from my grasp, and for a terrifying moment, I feared he would be pulled away. Then I felt it, a surge of strength in Greg as we both kicked harder. "Don't stop, we're almost there," I urged, adrenaline igniting our movements. We were close enough now that I could taste the cooler, clearer water of the crevice. But then, just as we reached the threshold, the ground beneath us trembled. Something crackled through the darkness. We had disturbed the creature, and it was not going to let us go easily. The water erupted around us as a monstrous form broke through. It wasn't just darkness, it was a being, vast and writhing, with multiple eyes glowing from its surface. I stumbled back as its roar reverberated through the water, a sound so deep it vibrated within my bones. "No!" I gasped, feeling a new wave of dread. We were running out of time, and now the real fight was about to begin. The creature surged forward, its many eyes locking onto us. I could see the iridescent flicker of its skin as it moved, every inch of it alive with a terrifying energy. Greg was still at my side, confusion mixing with fear on his face, but I knew there was no time for questions. "Swim," I repeated, my voice strangled with urgency. We had to put distance between us and that thing. If we hesitated for even a moment, we'd be lost. The water felt dense, almost as if it had a will of its own, pushing back against my every effort. I kicked harder, gritting my teeth against the cold. Greg stayed beside me, his strokes powerful and frantic. Together, we fought through the currents, though I could feel the tendrils creeping closer, sensing our fear. Just as I thought we had secured a lead, the creature lunged. Its mass displaced water like a tsunami, sending us both spiraling away from the crevice. I gasped, disoriented as sunlight turned to shadow. I scrambled to regain my bearings while trying to keep sight of Greg. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. "Look!" Greg shouted, pointing ahead. My heart sank as I followed his gaze. The light from the crevice was fading, engulfed by the creature's presence. The only path forward was deeper into the water, toward the unknown. I hesitated, panic creeping in again. "Should we try to go back?" I asked, desperation lacing my tone. But I already knew the answer. The creature seemed to sense our fear, twisting through the water, coiling like a serpent preparing to strike. "No, we can't go back," Greg shouted, that in a mix of determination and terror. "We have to—" A deafening roar erupted around us, drowning out his words. The creature lunged again, dark tendrils shooting out like lightning. One wrapped around my leg, pulling me down. I struggled against it, kicking fiercely, but the grip was unyielding. I could feel myself being dragged away from Greg, away from the light. "Greg, help!" I screamed, panic clawing at my throat as I was dragged under. The water enveloped me, and I lost sight of everything above. My lungs screamed for air, but I couldn't let it distract me. I had to fight, had to break free. I focused, summoning every ounce of strength I had. I twisted and turned, pulling my leg. The more I struggled, the tighter the grip seemed to become. Just when I thought I wouldn't break free, I felt a jolt, a sudden release. I shot toward the surface, gasping for air. And then I spotted him. Greg was fighting his own battle further away, another tendril encircling his torso. His eyes locked onto mine, and fear shot through me. He was still in this, but I wasn't guaranteed to escape again. "Hold on," I yelled, knowing full well I couldn't leave him to fight that thing alone. My heart raced as I swam back, focusing on the dark mass pulling Greg down. My thickening resolve mixed with dread, but I wouldn't abandon him. Then I saw it. The creature's single glowing eye blinked at me, its inexplicable gaze locking onto my soul. I felt a strange connection, a pull that wasn't just about fear. There was something more there. Suddenly, the water started to swirl and bubble around us, as if the current itself was shifting in response to our struggle. I glided closer to Greg, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Then, everything went dark. I gasped as I burst through the surface, the frantic splashing echoing in my ears. The water was strangely quiet now, the roar of the creature replaced by a heavy silence. I blinked, my eyes adjusting to the dim light filtering through the water. All around me, shadows danced, creating shapes I couldn't quite make out. Had I escaped? I turned, searching frantically for Greg. My heart sank when I saw that he wasn't beside me. Panic surged through me again, but I forced myself to breathe. I had to focus. I couldn't let fear take over. I scanned the water, looking for any sign of him. Then, just below where I had come up, I noticed movement. A shadow darted past, and I instinctively swam deeper. The creature's tendrils were still there, now swirling in erratic patterns, as if the darkness below was shifting to ensnare me again. I held my breath and dove, heart pounding as I searched for Greg among the chaos. As I descended, I spotted something glimmering in the murky depths, a piece of metal, perhaps a relic. It caught the feeble light like a beacon. I swam toward it, hoping it wasn't a false hope. Grabbing it, I felt a strange energy coursing through my fingertips, a different kind of urge that whispered to me. And then I heard it. A muffled scream that sent icy dread through my veins. It was Greg. I turned and kicked hard, propelling myself back up. The urgency clawed at me, reality dawning that I had to get to him, and fast. I reached the surface again, gasping for breath, desperate to find my friend. "Greg!" I shouted, my voice cracking. I strained my ears, listening for another sound. Nothing. Just the rippling water and the haunting silence. Just as I was about to dive again, a figure broke the surface some distance away. It wasn't Greg. A silhouette emerged, something sleek and elongated, moving with a fluid grace that made my skin crawl. Fear shot back through me as I recognized the shape. The creature had surfaced too. Its many eyes glinted in the waning light, watching me with a hunger that sent my instincts screaming. It seemed to sense my fear, pulling itself toward me with a strange grace, dark tendrils trailing in the water. I felt that same strange tug from before, a connection that whispered of understanding and dread. Then I caught sight of a flash of color beneath the creature. I squinted, realizing it was Greg's shirt. "Greg!" I yelled again, more urgently this time. My heart raced as a wave of instinctive fight-or-flight kicked in. There was no way I would let it take him. The creature's glowing eye locked onto me, and I had a sickening feeling that it understood. It opened its mouth, a gaping maw revealing rows of teeth that glittered with sinister bioluminescence. That's when I saw it. Behind the creature in the darkness, a series of strange, luminescent shapes flashed, almost like a portal. I recognized the danger, yet part of me was drawn to that light, as if it held answers about the creature's true nature. But first, I had to save Greg. As I pinched the piece of metal tightly in my hand, I dove down once more, ready to face whatever awaited me. I wouldn't leave him behind. The air grew colder, and I steeled myself for the depths. As I plunged back into the icy grip of the water, the chill seeped into my bones. I felt like I was flying through a liquid nightmare, the metal relic clutched tightly in my hand. I had to find Greg. I scanned the swirling shadows, desperately searching for the flash of his shirt or the sound of his voice. The cold weighed heavy on my chest, but panic fueled my movements. I forced myself to focus. I couldn't be distracted by fear or the odd pull of the creature lurking above. I swam deeper, my lungs yearning for air, all while the murky water closed in around me. Then I saw it, Greg's arm, flailing weakly, just beyond a tangle of dark tendrils. My heart leaped. I pushed forward, reaching for him. As I neared, the creature loomed above, blocking my path. Its jaws opened wider now, like a yawning abyss ready to swallow me whole. I hesitated, my body caught in the grip of dread. The tendrils swirled, brushing against my legs like icy fingers. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to act. With a surge of determination, I swam right under the creature, forcing my way toward Greg. "Grab my hand!" I shouted, although I wasn't sure he could hear me. His eyes darted wildly as he turned toward me. His face was a mask of fear, and I saw the desperation in his expression. I reached out, my fingers stretching just enough to grasp his hand. The moment our skin touched, I felt an electric jolt. The energy from the metal piece surged again, binding us like an unbreakable tether. Greg's grip tightened around my wrist, and without thinking, I pulled him toward me. But the creature was quick. It lunged, a massive shadow and teeth, and I barely dodged as it snapped at the space where we had just been. We kicked hard, pushing ourselves upwards, away from the jaws of death. I could hear the creature's growl echoing through the water, a sound so primal it sent shivers down my spine. I glanced back just in time to see those glowing eyes fixate on us, its tendrils reaching out as if trying to snatch us back into its dark embrace. I couldn't let that happen. I had to get us both to safety. The surface above shimmered like a mirage, calling to us. I kicked harder, pulling Greg along as we surged toward the light. With every stroke, the creature followed, its presence looming over us. Just as I thought we were going to break through, I felt something grab my ankle, a cold grip that threatened to pull me down again. I screamed, nearly losing my hold on Greg. "No!" I yelled, thrashing against whatever had wrapped around me. Then, I remembered the metal piece. In a desperate move, I pulled it from my pocket and held it toward the tendrils. The moment they touched the metal, they recoiled like they had been burned. It worked. I felt the grip on my ankle loosen. With one last push, I breached the surface as Greg and I gasped for air. our lungs finally free to breathe again. But just as I looked back, my heart dropped. The creature was still there, a shadow against the light, lingering just below the surface. And it wasn't alone. More shapes flickered beneath the waves, just as those luminescent flashes had shown me before. "Are you okay?" Greg gasped, his face pale, but I couldn't answer. I was too busy trying to comprehend what I had just seen. Just beneath the water, it wasn't just the creature anymore. It was an entire world I had never imagined. As I caught my breath, an unsettling thought crept in. What if we had stirred something we weren't meant to? Something that would follow us beyond this moment. "Let's get out of here," I said, but even as I spoke, a chill ran down my spine. Because now, we weren't just running from the creature. We were running from whatever secrets lay below, waiting to be uncovered. My breaths came in sharp bursts as Greg and I scrambled back onto the boat, the frigid air slicing through us like shards of glass. We tumbled onto the deck and I glanced over my shoulder, fear pooling in my gut. The creature, the shadows below, it always felt so close, hovering just out of sight, waiting. "Are we safe?" Greg asked, his eyes wide and panicked. I don't know," I replied, uncertain of our fate. The water beneath us was still, but that monstrous shape could be lurking just below the surface. I shivered at the thought. "We need to regroup. The others, they might still be down there." We turned to our teammates, who were huddled together, their faces pale and drawn. They looked at us, relief mixed with worry. I could see they had been caught up in the chaos of the waves, and dread seeped into my bones again. "What happened?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "Where's Adam?" I opened my mouth to speak, but the reality of it hit me like a punch. I don't know. I lost him. He was taken." Silence hung thick in the air. I could see disbelief flicker in their eyes as they processed our words. Flashes of the Leviathan and its tendrils exploded in my mind. We had wrestled against something beyond our understanding, but telling them felt like admitting defeat. "You have to believe me. It was real." The urgency in my voice turned into desperation. A few of my teammates exchanged glances, struggling to process our account of the encounter. Greg continued to breathe heavy, his face ghostly pale. "We need help," he said finally. "Please. We need to alert the research team. Get people out here. There has to be something we can do." The others nodded, but I felt a growing unease. What if it was too late? What if we had unleashed something deeper into these waters? And Adam, was he still alive? Or worse, changed like those strange artifacts we encountered? "Let's get as far from here as we can," I said. "We'll alert the authorities. They'll have to believe us. They'll have to send people back." But deep down, I felt a shadow looming, a sense of foreboding that there was still something lurking in those depths, waiting. We moved in shaky silence, preparing the boat to leave what had become our prison. Just as the engine roared to life, distant thunder rumbled, echoing ominously through the clouds. I looked out over the frosty expanse of water. The surface undulated softly, deceptively still. "Is it over?" I wondered quietly to myself, but the gnawing fear whispered otherwise. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't finished, that whatever we had encountered beneath those waves still waited. As we sped away, I turned back for one last glance. The icy waters shimmered, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw something break the surface. A flash of light, or perhaps a shape, lurking just below. My heart raced at the image, the connection lingering beneath my skin. It felt like an unfinished story, threads of knowledge and terror intertwining with our own lives. In the days that followed, I tried to piece together what had happened. One by one, the reports came back, regular oceanic readings, no signs of distress, no anomalies recorded at the site. The others said it was a mix of exhaustion and panic, that the cold had played tricks on us. But I still felt them, ghosts of shadows beneath the surface of my mind, the whispers of artifacts that called to something deeper. Greg moved a few weeks later, retreating from the memories altogether. Sarah stuck around, but I often caught her staring at the ocean, as if waiting for an answer that would never come. I tried to publish our findings, documenting the whole experience, but the labeling of anomalous behavior only met with skepticism, raised eyebrows, and a kind of dismissive chuckle. It was easier for them to ignore what probably wasn't real. Yet, every now and then, I would wake up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, listening to the winds howl. I would sit up, breathless, remembering the creature's many eyes. I still think about Adam sometimes, that hollow look in his eyes as he stood on the edge of the darkness. I moved to another coast, hoping the salt air might wash away some of the terror. But even now, months later, I can't shake the feeling that something lies beneath the surface of every wave, something that watches and waits. I suppose I will never know if it was supernatural or just the far-reaching tendrils of my own mind. But I know one thing for certain. There are things down there, deeper than we dare to fathom.